Hello friends, Brandy here with Falcon Healing Arts. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for joining me for this September energy update. So how this usually works is that I do shamanic divination to tap into the energy of first the collective, so the collective energy we're feeling in the community, in a more global perspective too sometimes. And then I do a tarot spread, which will get us more into our personal evolution during this month. And I usually tie it up with pulling a goddess card at the end. And it's all been wonderful. This is the 5th time we're doing it. It all seems to wrap up pretty nicely with this theme that we can work toward that will improve our lives for the better. So I will be honest that I did not want to tap into the collective energy today. I was planning on doing this recording. I was planning on doing it this afternoon and was really dragging my feet about it. But I went for a walk run with my son and then took us out to ice cream afterwards. And he was staring off into space. I started letting my mind wander and I was thinking, oh, I really don't want to tap into this energy because I've already been feeling it. I was so angry this morning about something and I don't want to get into the details of everything because we all have a different perspective. So I was thinking, how can I approach this while being fully objective and helping everyone move beyond it? And it was answered just by this simple image that popped into my head that was really like, you don't need to tap into the energy, it's all here. So I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any anger come up, and it is really giving me this big, wide perspective of what we're working with. So this is a big theme here. And of course you can read into it as I'm presenting it, but I'll try to tie it up here at the end. I do need you to follow me though, because I'm talking about 5 different groups and you may fit into one of these groups and it may be different for these different themes that are presented as a movie. Okay, so that's how it came into this vision, is that I was in a movie theater, I was in an aisle, and I was very aware that there were these 5 groups. First, there's the group who produced this film. So the producer, the director, all the film crew, the actors, and then the second group is the people who are sitting really up close to the movie screen in the theater. There's a group behind them who are just, they're sitting back so they could see this is a movie I'm in. I'm not as into it. And then 2 other groups. So one sitting in the back that are more like this, judging the film, and then those who are standing in the aisle like I was. So let me get into all these different groups. And the movie that is being presented is what we're being fed in the collective. So very rarely are we presented with just the facts, that everything we're getting from the media, even political messages, are scripted. So, and then we have the people's perspectives beyond that. So we're always given a message with a certain flavor behind it, not just the facts. And some people only want to hear from one perspective, one voice. And again, so you're not getting the whole picture. And so this movie can be about politics, like I just mentioned. It could be the pandemic we've been living through. It could be some social movement that we're working with, and all the different sides. And of course, the people who are producing this film have a certain motivation. And really, what they want is to capture the hearts and minds of the people who are watching it. That's what Hollywood does with all their movies. And we're not talking about this being good or bad. That's the motivation, right? It's a money-making business and it's for entertainment. They're definitely filling a need for people who are really wanting that entertainment. Okay, so let's get into all the groups now. And again, let's stay distanced about not thinking that one is good or bad, but you may start to question about where you are. And this is all leading toward the personal message today about how you can break out from being in that theater and start to create your own life and reality. Okay, so like I started to mention, there are the people who are making the film, and there's motivation behind it. They're trying to make money. There are actors who are wanting to be well known. They're wanting fame. And they don't mind if they're projected as the protagonist or the antagonist. They have a role in the film that they're comfortable with. And it could be any genre. So, like I was saying, if we're talking about politics or the social movement or whatever, it can all have a certain flavor around it with how it's being presented to us as being a thriller, as being a romantic idea, even horror in some situations where they are trying to perpetuate fear. And people love that, right? They go to see these films to have this reaction. And again, these movie producers know that. They're wanting to give people what they want. It keeps them entertained. It keeps them involved with their business, with Hollywood. Okay? And yeah, wanting to capture the hearts and minds of the viewer. And again, that's not, I mean, there may be malevolent intentions, but people want it. The ones who are involved are generally wanting it for some reason. Okay, then there are the people in the front of the theater, sitting very up close. They are completely enthralled. So these are the people who are huge fans. They're here for all of it, and they get very emotionally involved. This is a part of their life. So I'm thinking automatically of those of us who get sucked into reality TV, and that's something I did when I was younger. So I feel like this is a maturity thing too, that we tend not to do that as much as we age, as we have this certain amount of maturity, that we do see that there's a different way we can interact. But yeah, if you're caught up in reality TV or binge watching some type of series, that you're really becoming a fan and you have to get every single morsel of what is being presented to you. And why? Why might people do this? Again, it could be filling a need. So there maybe their lives are not exciting enough. This is making them feel more than they typically would in their ordinary lives. They don't experience those whole range of emotions. They get bored easily. They're uncomfortable with that boredom and being by themselves. It may be this subconscious avoidance of what's underneath that. Okay? And yeah, they're fine. Whatever's being presented, if it's fear, if it's hate, if it's disgust, there may be some attraction to one of those genres, one of those subjects being presented that they get really involved with. Okay. And so there are those sitting further back in the middle of the theater. So they're not as involved. They are watching the film, but are not as into it. And they may just want to be in the know. So I'm thinking about myself. where I have done something like this with media. So, like Game of Thrones or The Sopranos, I watched all of that just because I felt like I needed to know, even though I did not like how I felt after watching every single episode of both series. It was disturbing, and I do feel like that negativity did start to trickle into my life, where I was feeling more fearful about the things around me. There is always some residue. And so why might they do this besides just wanting to be in the know? Maybe they're also there with a friend who's like more up close, and a fan, so they want to be a part of it with that person, that friend or family member. Maybe they're a fan of one of the actors and they don't want to criticize this film. So start to think now about politics and everything. Are there things being presented that you're uncomfortable with but afraid to criticize because you've always been a fan and you're afraid not to be, because that's become part of your identity? Okay, then there are the people who are in the back row. And these are those who are like, I don't know about this. Like, this is so ridiculous, they might even say. The acting is so fake, or they're angry about the motives of why this movie's being made, how they're trying to capture the hearts and minds of people. And maybe they do think this is really malevolent and evil. And generally, this group is really angry about what's happening. But they're not just angry with the film, they're angry with all of the people who are watching it, even though they're watching it too. So, no judgment from me on any of this. Again, I've experienced many places in this theater watching different movies. So what else about them? Yeah, so they see that there is honestly this manipulation that is happening. They don't like it. But they have this judgment about the people who are watching, maybe calling them stupid or gullible or followers or whatever. But again, they're still watching the film. They're still feeling everything that the film is wanting us to feel. So they're not immune to that if they're watching it. And they're also feeling all this anger coming up around it. So it is more intense for them. And they're, again, choosing to do it. So every single group is here intentionally for a reason. They're choosing to be in this space in the theater. So then there are those who are standing in the aisle. And this is where I saw myself in this vision. And they can see the film, they can see the intention, the motivation, they can feel the emotion coming off of it, they can see everyone in the theater and how they are reacting to it, and are not committing to sitting down. They're like, this is off, but I'm still here. I'm still here. Like, I need to know what's happening. But I also know that I can just leave. Okay? So that's where we're going here. That's where we're going here is I want you to reflect. I encourage you to reflect on the movies that are being played out right now. Which ones you're involved with, how much involvement is there, why you are resonating with it. Because that resonance is what is making you choose your place in this theater and your involvement. That there is something you are getting from it. So it's very interesting to explore this and to think of the different examples and the differences. Like, you may be like, I am so not dealing with that anymore, but still really involved with this other movie. Okay. And yeah, before we go on to our personal work, really, honestly, I'm just talking to the people who are in the back row, maybe the group number 3 too, who are in the middle, because they can see what's going on, but they're still choosing to be there. But the people in the back row have a much bigger perspective of everything happening there. They're also seeing the people in the aisle. And everyone, even though they may be more receptive to standing in the aisle or leaving, really everyone can be altered at any point and diverted from their attention on the screen by the action of the people leaving the theater. So think about when you're in a theater, you're into a movie, and someone leaves and they leave the door open for a long time and you see the light coming in, it takes you away from that experience. So that's kind of what this is. When you start to see people becoming less involved, first, you're just going to be really into the movie still. But something might snap you out just a bit where you're like, wait a minute. Or you might get angry at them for disturbing you. But then you might start to pull back a bit more and see, whoa, I was really into this, and start stepping back in the theater or even stepping over to the side. But yeah, most likely I'm just talking to the people who are already seeing that there's an issue with the film and how involved they are in it, because this is taking them away from real life that is happening outside the theater. And I know we've all had this experience. I remember when I was a kid and I was just thinking, what movie was I really, really into? And E.T. Oh my God, E.T. When I saw it in the theater, I was so into it and I was bawling at the end. It pulled at my heart so badly. I was brought through all the emotions in that film. And I don't know how old I was, maybe 8 or something. But I remember leaving the theater, it was like, whoa, I was just in this time warp. And I know that's happened to you too, where when you leave the theater and the light is blinding you, and then you look at your watch and you're like, oh my God, wow, that was much longer than the length of the film. The ads must have been, the previews must have been really long. And sometimes it feels like you've wasted time. If the movie wasn't that good, you're like, oh man, that was a huge chunk of my day. And sometimes it takes a while to continue with the rest of your day. So this is the transition that we're going to help you through in September. This is what I feel like a majority of people are needing to work through as they are starting to look away from the movie screen and what's being presented, what we've been overly involved with, and start focusing on our lives. What is going to help make that happen? So this tarot spread is giving us this method and the things that we can focus on. So ready? Ready to get into this? Give me a like if you haven't already. I hope you're excited. It's always so beautiful how these are laid out. Like always, it starts with more of a bang, this is what you need to look at, but it ends beautifully. And I just picked 3 cards today. So the first is a doozy. This is the Tower card. So this is the Star Tarot deck. I love it so much. But this is showing a tower. It's actually showing it as a volcano. It's exploding upward, but yeah, there's also lightning striking down, and that's creating fire. There's spirits leaving the tower. There's all this chaos and confusion inside, but there is a dove at the bottom. So this dove, who usually symbolizes peace. So it's this big breakup. And I'll tell you right up that this is the theme of this spread. Break up energy and the expansion and transformation that comes from that. So the tarot card represents sudden awakening, So it's like the leaving of the theater and being blinded and maybe realizing that you wasted time. Sometimes that brings up a lot of strong emotions, especially if you've invested a lot of your time in it. Now we're linking this to things that are really happening in our lives, and how we may have been a little too involved, where we could have been focusing on ourselves, on our families, and the life that we want to create. So it doesn't matter. We can't get caught up with that as long as we are just now going with the flow, and that you're seeing that this breakup energy is necessary. So the Tower, it throws you into this new reality without much warning. So it can be very, very shocking. And if you're one of those sitting up close to the film, it may be the person leaving who angers you at first, but then shocks you into realizing that the theater is full of all these other people and all these different perspectives, and that you have a choice whether you're going to be here or not. That can all be really upsetting. So it's startling to wake up to it all, to realize you've been caught up in ego or placed too much importance on your role in other people's agendas. So this isn't your life you've been living necessarily. You've been caught up in other people's agendas. And the Tower card is helping us, it's telling us that we are now able to break free and regain control. Okay, so let that sink in, that this breaking up, this breaking free is helping us regain control. Control again of our hearts and of our minds. It brings transformation when we realize our former foundations were an illusion. And so as that breaks apart, we're then able to build this stronger foundation that is authentic. And we'll get into that, what that means with this next card. But just as you're working with this energy and all the intensity around it, just try to stay positive and remember that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is this dove that is helping you through this transition to peace. Peace in the heart and mind. Okay, the next card is the Three of Swords. So you see the three swords are piercing this heart that's behind a woman who's grieving. She has her hands over her eyes. She's kneeling in darkness. There's clouds around her. It's raining. But there's angels on either side of her kissing her cheeks. So this is also about breaking. So the sword is breaking, it's piercing, and there's expansion from this. The three is all about expansion. So this is symbolizing a wounded heart. But we see she's being supported and comforted by angels, by this spiritual presence. And so this awakening, it's also a spiritual awakening, that as you're able to step back and see with this wider perspective, you're also able to go deeper. You're able to feel more. This becomes more intense as you're feeling, not just what's happening with you, but with all the people around you. It's hard. That's why I was saying I did not want to feel into it today, because it can be overwhelming. But what this card is saying is to remember that you have spiritual support. That's what I was given today too. And I was like, I don't think I could handle it today. And they just gave me this other way to do it. Okay, so the Three of Swords, change is happening that's deeply spiritual. And this is about your authentic nature. For those of you who did my Free Your Authenticity Challenge, we talked about this a lot, that your authentic nature is your spiritual essence. That's why a lot of people have a hard time being authentic, because they are engaging with the world in a very superficial manner, not getting in deep and vulnerable. And you could be vulnerable in a superficial way too. That happens on social media. But this is more of what I'm feeling. I don't need to tell everyone about it. Okay? And all the spiritual support that comes up around that, that keeps moving you forward on your path. So it's helping you to develop trust in your higher power and to build belief in yourself too. That's part of this foundation you're rebuilding from the tower. You're building belief in yourself. That is the strongest foundation. Building belief in yourself and in your higher power. Okay, they're linked because we are part of this higher power, this more expansive energy. And we're being guided to transform this sorrow into new insights and ways of being. So it is a collective breakup we're talking about. By moving away from ideology and the pressures around adhering to that, looking at things with our own perspective, from our own beliefs, staying strong with that. And so we start to trust these insights more and more as we're building this belief in ourselves. And it gives us greater understanding, greater wisdom. This card can signify a different type of breakup in your life. And this happens too, that when you wake up to this higher knowing, that does distance you from other people, other relationships. So that may happen as part of this. I know we've talked about this before in other months with different cards. So this is similar. That's not going to change much because we're on this huge trajectory right now as humans. Just remember that this change was meant to be, and it's part of a cleansing process. Okay, we're cleansing away what is not serving us. We're cleansing away what is binding us, what is keeping us the same, what is keeping us more lower vibration in that anger, guilt, shame, all these lower vibration emotions too, instead of rising higher up into a more enlightened perspective where we can feel it and experience all of it. Okay, so it's not just always living in those higher frequencies, but being able to be compassionate for others and really get down there with them. That's part of the healing. If you are a healer, that is what you do, is you go down to that vibration with other people and help lift them out. And it's through understanding that we can do that. So this cleansing is peeling off layers of resistance, peeling off veils that are this illusion. And so it's revealing more of yourself. So this whole month, we're going to be feeling into that you're becoming more and more yourself as you move through possibly challenges, as you start to wake up to what is happening around you. Brace for tears. That's part of the cleansing. And remember, just like there is light at the end of the tunnel, this too shall pass. Okay, the last card here before we pull our goddess card. So one more tarot card. This is the Ace of Swords. So another sword card, another sword that's going to help us break up, break through. And this one I love so much. So this is a very positive card. The sword is breaking through. See the crown at the top? It's breaking up and through the crown. So this is reminding me automatically of the crown chakra, the 7th chakra, that is related to universal consciousness. So relating us to the divine, being able to communicate with the divine, but also being able to communicate with others. So really meeting people on that level, on more of a spiritual level. Collective consciousness. So yes, it's aligning us with enlightenment, I already mentioned, with spiritual awareness. And this is yet another card about not just breaking through, but about expansion, what's beyond this. So this card is talking about what is happening when we break through. That it's showing us this brilliant light, and the inspiration that it's symbolizing. It's bringing us more imagination, more creative efforts from that. So, but very much an inspiring card. So as we start to tap into this collective consciousness, instead of tapping into what is overwhelming us, what has overwhelmed us in the past, all the low vibe negative emotions, or all of people's reactions to the movie we've been watching, instead you're going to be inspired by them. So you're going to be feeling into these higher frequencies. So very, very exciting. But you need to move through these first two levels first to get there. And yeah, this is the healthy way to interact with the world, is to look for inspiration. But we're not becoming involved to the point that we were with the movie, where we lost our identity. When we're being inspired by another person, that means that we are we appreciate what they're doing. This brings up an idea within us that we can be really unique and creative about. So we're not taking their ideas, we're not just following what they're doing, but this is sparking something deep inside of us that we can run with passionately. So it's helping us cut through blocks, doubts, mental chatter, and helping us to move forward with purpose and clarity. I love that so much. All right, friends. So let us end with a goddess card. So I've been using this deck for a long time. The Goddess Oracle by Amy Sophia Marashinsky. It's always super relevant. Honestly, this does make me a little nervous doing this with you here in real time. So I'm always concerned that I'll get a card that doesn't match the theme that we've been talking about. But I trust myself, I trust my higher self, I trust God. That's what we're tapping into here, are these higher energies. Okay, so we're asking for one goddess card to come forth. It's going to help us bring all of this together, maybe provide us with more wisdom. There's a few that want to come out. Where is the perfect one? Give this a few more cycles. Okay, I think that is good. Ooh, ooh. I did not expect this, but it's Freya, sexuality. Breaking up, breaking free. I mean, we are talking about freedom here. Breaking through and expanding. Okay, so there's a wonderful poem that goes with all of these. So Freya, I believe she's a Norwegian goddess, Northern European. Okay, sexuality. There was a time in the beginning, a time when there was nothing, a time when I danced. my dance of sexuality, the energy of creation, and with that dance gave it to all as my gift. Sexuality brought union with me, with Goddess, with spiritual ecstasy. Sexuality healed and wholed, regenerated and reinvigorated. Sexuality wove you into the web of all being life. For life lives to express itself, whether it be new life, vitality, rites of pleasure, limitless possibility, whatever you choose. Sexuality is life's expressive dance and its greatest gift. So let's think about this. Of course, I'll let you make sense of it yourself. It doesn't completely fit. But again, it is that expansive energy that when we are feeling into our sexuality, we are feeling into ourselves, right? We're not concerned with other people. That's not what it should be about, right? We should be thinking about our own personal pleasure, not just pleasing other people. And I think that's where this fits, is that when we're focused on our sexuality, we're focused on ourselves and how we can experience pleasure in our lives. So when you feel like you are caught in a movie, and a lot of the motivation of wanting to capture our hearts and minds, again, is making us be in these lower vibration frequencies where we feel like we need to be dependent on others and maybe in that pleasing energy. Just like a child who is dependent on parents, but not parents who give us a lot of space and freedom, but parents who are more oppressive in their ways of parenting. And that can definitely affect our sexuality too and sense of self. So if we are to focus on breaking free of these patterns, we're going to see this in other areas of our lives. So maybe focus on sensual pleasure, on sexual pleasure. Think about the ways that you have been caught up with something else that is making you feel perhaps guilty about this. Yeah, I would definitely explore it on your own. And if this is making sense to you, you're welcome to reach out to me. This is making a lot of sense in my life. I will need to think more about this Freya card. But all super interesting. I love so much how this dropped in today. And I so hope that this resonates with you, that it's giving you something to work toward all this month for your personal and spiritual development. So let me know if you need more guidance. Remember, we can work together one-on-one in holistic healing sessions. If you are wanting more help with personal empowerment, then my Pathway to Empowerment program would be perfect for you. So I can give you more details if you are interested. Thank you so much, friends, and take care. I will see you again next week.